Hi, this is Reece Healey, and welcome to another segment of Tell Me a Story in 2 Minutes. We're going to continue with Into Thin Air, Chapter 5. Believe it or not, we are halfway through the book. So here we go. The two men grabbed a table on the patio of the box bar where most of the crowd hung out. Michael sat across from the man who introduced himself as Dennis Wilkins, a software engineer from London, Ontario. Michael looked at Dennis intently and simply asked him who he was and if he had anything to do with the disappearance of his wife. Dennis looked at Michael with a nervous smile and confessed that he had been hired by Christine to write the 2 letters. Michael looked at Dennis with suspicion and asked him, why? Dennis combed his dark hair with his fingers, looked at Michael with a wry smile and said that he had answered a newspaper ad posted by Christine to write the letters to lure him to Montreal and Charlotte Amalie. Michael wasn't sure he believed the man. Nothing seemed to add up, and the more Dennis tried to explain himself, the more nervous he became. Michael wanted to give this man the benefit of the doubt, and the only way he was going to get any information from him was to try to win his trust. So, they made small talk and spoke of the weather and some of the touring attractions on the island. Even though the conversation flowed, Michael couldn't help feeling uneasy, and yet there was something he liked about the man. After a couple drinks, Michael felt he had conjured up enough nerve to ask Dennis some tough questions. And so he began his questioning, everything from his relationship with Christine, her whereabouts, and most importantly, if she was still alive. Dennis then began to sweat profusely, his heart rate becoming erratic, his knees beginning to shake underneath the table. As though Michael could read the man's mind, Dennis told him that he honestly didn't know whether or not Christine was alive, as he had never met her because of all the business they had conducted was over the phone. After lighting a cigarette to calm his nerves, Dennis finally confessed something that Michael had suspected all along, that Dennis had been hired to kill him once he had arrived on the island. As Dennis's nerves began to take its toll, Michael pleaded with him to give him more information. But the man shook his head nervously, got up, and ran from the bar. Michael got up to run after the man, but before he could see in which direction he had taken off, he was clearly out of sight. What was this man hiding? If he really was hired to kill him, why the sudden change of heart? Was Dennis really who he said he was? Michael couldn't help thinking that perhaps Dennis and Christine were a lot closer. Maybe they were working together to get rid of him. He just didn't know, but he was determined to find out. Michael was also pretty certain that this man's real name was not Dennis Wilkins, and thus it would be quite difficult to track him down. With the sun setting, Michael decided to call it a day and head back to the hotel. When he walked past the front desk, the clerk waved him down frantically to come forward. The clerk then handed Michael an envelope, another letter. Michael sat on the lobby couch and began reading the letter. How did your conversation with Dennis Wilkins go? I can just see the look on your face knowing that I have been seeking your every move. Michael then began looking around the entire lobby. Besides the front desk clerk, he was the only one in the room. Michael continued reading the letter. So, since you've been successful in finding me, I'm sure you're still wondering if I'm alive or not, or if this is some silly game. The truth is, I'm tired of playing, fed up with the charades, and most of all, tired of you. I think I've had fun. It's now time for you to go home and resume your life without me. Please stop looking for me, because if you don't, you're going to pay the ultimate price, and believe me, you're not going to like it one bit. Take the first available flight back to Toronto and leave me alone. Because if you don't, well, let's just say you'd be smart not to underestimate what I am capable of. Your loving wife, Christine. Michael had had enough of this. How could he have been so naive and stupid? To think that he could simply hop on a plane and expect his wife to come home with him. But then he thought again, and even though he hated to admit it, he still had to consider the fact that Dennis Wilkins could be behind all of this, and maybe he had killed Christine and was going to go after Michael next. Was Dennis a secret lover of Christine? Michael needed to know. He needed to know, and fast, before Dennis got to him. And just as he opened the door to his hotel room, Dennis was standing with a gun pointed directly at him. Well, there you have it, Chapter 5, and I look forward to seeing the look on your faces when I resume Chapter 6. Thank you again for joining me and tell me a story in 2 minutes. See you next time.